Happy Friday, going live again as usual with Hollywood IQ. And this week is the week before Thanksgiving. And so we're going to get into some gratitude, some acknowledgments, but of course, more and more information about how to navigate your creative career in Hollywood. This week's episode, this past week, actually, I should say, was another cool episode of Hollywood IQ, specifically it was the veterans episode with my brother Charles Handy, and then this last episode was with um, Bree Frank, and we talked. We got a lot more detail of her organization, Here You Know, and we got into just a lot of more information about how you navigate your career. But at the end of the day, it was about these affinity groups. With the Academy of the Arts and with all the different kind of organizations inside those organizations, they have different priorities and directives, specifically as it relates to like super serving your team. And if you've been following us on social, you've been following me on social, you may have seen I received an ad color award this last week. It was a rock star award, but really it was an acknowledgement of not only the work that we do at the Handy Foundation, but also just the importance of the work of diversity and inclusion. And it's interesting; those words have specific kind of ring to them nowadays. But at the end of the day, it is the work of, just like you might diversify your portfolio or diversify your team to get different perspectives. You might need someone that's really good with finances combined with someone that's really creative, right? And we just know that those different skill sets coming together make a team stronger. So essentially, um, when I talked about it, ad color, and what the conversation was with most folks is how to demonstrate that return on investment, like how to demonstrate that value. So what we're going to talk about today is not only about the investment that we need to make into our ourselves and our companies, um, but also the folks we need to show gratitude to, because there are a lot of folks that understand the struggles, the challenges of building a great and well organized and well diversified of experiences creative team. And there's folks that just don't understand that process, right? They maybe not have that experience. They don't understand what it's like to get it wrong, especially when you get something wrong culturally, or you're not with the times. It's like when you see the old folks, like myself. I include myself in this. Saying the new kid slang. It's not going to sound the same rolling off our tongue as it would a teenager, because this is their time. And so you want to have those folks involved when you're cracking jokes on their generation. So I think that what I learned the most this last week and just in this time period is that just because things are disinvested in or don't have as much resources don't mean they're any less valuable. In some cases, it's more valuable because it's less of it, right? And so that's the most important thing I want to kind of share about today is not only how to navigate for yourself individually, but just kind of a self-reflective moment for all of us to take toll of what we should be grateful for going into Thanksgiving week, but also what we can expand on, right? Because there are these little wins. I think sometimes you're dealing with big losses or big setbacks. You forget to celebrate the little wins or the things you are doing well on. And so I think that for me, I will just share the one thing that I'm doing. I feel like I am doing well on that. I want to be very like transparent and grateful that we don't do none of this ourselves. Nothing we do by ourselves. So we have all sorts of partners who help, and and not only that, we have a lot of alumni that help too, right? That really come to the table and continue this cycle going for their peers. So So I think what I wanted to do Jay, is everybody take a moment to reflect, maybe put in the chat, put in a comment, not only a company, a person, a thing that you're still up to, a project that's been keeping you going. I think that we have to hold tight to those things, especially during the holidays. This is the time to lock in and really take a look at the projects you put down maybe earlier this year, um, and look at them not only with this, vigor of going into 2026, but also with new eyes and fresh eyes with all the news that's going on around our industry. So we're going to get into some news and look at it from that lens of like what can we be, what's the possibility out of this particular opportunity, right? Like what is the opportunity with this particular news? So looking at the news of the week myself, um, of course, there's a lot of mergers still going on. I mean, that's always going to be at the forefront of of our news and our business, right? So all these different all these different streamers merging potentially, Warner Brothers deals, things like that. But besides that, the thing that I'm noticing is what kinds of things they're forming partnerships around. Um, Obviously we have, SAG now getting on board with vertical shorts, and trying to figure out a deal to understand what that might mean for a union work, right? And I think that's exactly what we should be doing. We should continually be looking into the where the growth is. So anybody working on a vertical short or cares about vertical shorts, we should do a talk specifically about that. I'm going to invite someone on the podcast to talk about that. Um, and then, good news for Californians. There's a lot more films that have been and TV shows that have been greenlit recently to do their filming and with the tax credit in in Los Angeles or in California in general, specifically Mr. and Mrs. Smith. And I saw Forever from Netflix. Those future seasons, the next seasons of those will be in California, and they will be receiving the California tax credit. Um, Wicked for Good, overall previews at $30 million, best movie of the year. Um, so I think that that's great, right? So like movies are still popping, but it's got to be things that really warrant people wanting to leave their house. So that's why people are still focused on existing IP and obviously following up on things like that. So the one thing I will say on that note is we should all be taking a look at what we've done previously and what we can would any of it be relevant today? It's a question I ask a lot. Um, and essentially, what I want to do is make sure that this place is a place where you can bring all these kind of questions and conversations. So starting in January, I'm going to do office hours. So I'm gonna start maybe do a couple of them in December, but really we're gonna start in earnest um, in January. So what that means is if you want to join the Handy, so what that means if you want to join the Hollywood IQ office hours, what we're going to do is we're going to take some of these ideas that we've been talking about the last few weeks, and we're going to give people some opportunities to workshop them one on one. We'll work through it and really go in depth, and then some of the advice and nuggets that we learn in those office hours we'll curate and put onto the platform, or in some cases show an entire live conversation. So if you're interested in receiving that opportunity or partnering or coming in and having a conversation with us about your project, your career, your creative goals as you want to, as you see them, where your roadblocks are as you see them, and we want to kind of help people work through those, and maybe use those as examples to give other people advice. Um, but also, you can come by and share your wins. Just like I said, we're in the attitude of gratitude right now, and we don't want to promote the doom and gloom any more than we promote the positive things that are going on too. And so I think that's a area of balance I like to do, right? Like just balance, what you're spending your mind, thoughts, and your energy on, because the more you think about positive things, the more positive things happen. And unfortunately, it's the same thing with the antithesis of that, which is the more you think about negative things, the more negative things happen. So I think that we have the attitude of gratitude, be blessed, and be grateful for our blessings. Um, and so, with that being said, I want to have some very balanced conversations with you guys, and really just hear about what you're working on, hear about how it lines up with what we are up to, and see if there's any synergies where we can create opportunities for people, either by amplifying what you're up to, really drilling down on next steps for yourself, or for your career, or for your project. Um, and I think it'll be fun. I think it'll be fun. So we'll do a little series of that. So the podcast, the first 13 episodes will run until the end of this year. And then we'll do 13 weeks of office hours. And those will be like one-on-one conversations with folks that, that are still trying to figure it out. And I think that's going to be the most powerful time period with this opportunity, with this podcast, and this Substack channel. So this is a quick live again. I'm going to play a clip from one of the episodes right now. But you guys stay tuned and stay tapped in with us on Substack. Please message us, leave your questions, because we want to come on here and address questions that you have directly. And then in some cases, we'll invite you on to ask your question live, and we'll share it. And this will live on folks that are on the Substack to watch for as long as we need to leave it up there. We're going to curate all this advice into some specific direction and a pathway. But excited to keep the conversation going. And check out these clips from last week's episode, and stay tuned for the next episode Tuesday. It'll be with my brother Rylan Englehart, talking about how to raise money for documentaries. That's going to be a great topic, and just really getting into that process. Like, what does that look like, and how do people do it? It's from a guy that's raised millions of dollars for his nonprofit and their documentaries. And so a friend of mine got great advice, and I can't wait for you guys to see that next week on Tuesday. And then Thanksgiving, enjoy your Turkey Day, and enjoy your Indigenous Peoples Day, whatever you celebrate. Celebrate it with family and the people you love. And let's think positive. That's all I'm trying to say. Let's think positive for 2026, and get excited for the things that are working, and work on solutions for everything else. All right, check this out.
Because, the one thing the Handy Foundation does many, many, many things well. And I think socializing your platform and being able to have metrics associated with what you do is, it's a testimony to how successful you are. I think that the pain points that exist for me, for Hugh, a lot of times come with being able to capture those stories and make it a part of the process. And so I've always admired your ability to be able to do it, where I kind of feel like, because of the way that I started Hugh, was just like an attempt to help without understanding how it would blow up from 27 people to 22,000. The one thing that Hugh is like it is the spectrum of what it means to be in the business, in terms of being in front of the camera, behind the camera, branded marketing. Like, it's so many different facets of what it means to be a creative. And that exists because of my own professional career, one. And two, one of the things that I know is that when I was trying to find my way from advertising to television, which was my original plan, but not really having a clear line of sight of how to get into the industry, I was trying to communicate with people who were in the industry, but they were outside of my wheelhouse, right?
Yeah.
So when I created Hugh, I didn't want to close off it to just one particular set of folks, because what I felt was that when I was trying to make the switch over, trying to find people who had made that pivot, who had made the change, it was so hard to come by, and everyone kind of wanted you to just stay in your lane. And what I have understood about my own life is that when you are introduced to a lexicon of the way something functions, when you are able to see how other people work, you can identify and extract the values that you can add when you're crossing over. And so it is sometimes overwhelming because it's not one thing. And it was designed to be a Facebook community that then developed into a nonprofit organization. And we've done so many different things.
Oh yeah, I go to the Hue events and I'm like, dang, this is a dope event. Ours be, not as popping, because you guys are really good at gathering a bunch of different professionals into one room.
Yeah, from executives down to PAs and putting them in the same room and not creating I feel like Hugh, I say we are gateways to the gatekeepers.
Yeah.
And because of my own experience, and what I'm really doing is bringing my resume to an entire community and using those assets of my network to help others. It does really open up the kind of folks that show up, because it's not just a room of, production assistants or just a room of executives. It's kind of like
the spectrum.
It's the spectrum of our industry. And that is why I think it creates so much impact, and there's buy-in off of like the backs of the people that help me run the group, which are people who have been in the industry for years.
So let's back it up, because yes, definitely if you're listening to this and you're not familiar with who go to their Instagram, go to their
We're over at Mighty Networks. We're paused on Facebook for right now. I'm debating whether or not to go back to Facebook.
The big question I think today is now, like, how do you build a personal brand, and what do you do now if you've just been a worker or just been behind the scenes, but now you realize, okay, I got to get more attention to even have a shot at working, right?
Yeah, I think that the most important thing that anyone can do, no matter who you are, from gaffers to showrunners, is to have a point of view. Right? I think that a lot of times what people are trying to do is to chase something that looks good that someone else is doing, but they actually don't have a North Star. And so it comes across as inauthentic, and then it's not successful, or it is successful, but it kind of like burns out like a firecracker. Yeah. And so I think like having a point of view is the thing that helps you build your brand, because you have to know who you are. And that can't be a parrot version of what you think people want to hear about who you are.
Like, what was the point where you knew, okay, well, I'm good, I'm here, I'm gonna be doing this for a while, and B, like you really felt like the jobs were coming to you versus you searching out, like trying to get the jobs?
Okay, when I first started out, I wanted to quit 10 million times because I did not understand the inconsistency of this industry. I also blew a lot of jobs, which I love to talk about. Dawson's Creek, and Dora the Explorer being two of them.
Oh yeah.
Just not knowing how to interview and how to understand how to define who I am and what it is that I want to do, and also saying no to things that were basically handed to you.
Right.
I truthfully have been very lucky in that my resume has never actually gotten me a job in this industry. I'm like 25 years into the game, and I cannot think of one application that I put in that helped me get my job. It has always been through who I knew.
Oh. Who you know.
It's because it is who you know, right? And so kind of my work preceded me. My reputation preceded me. And that is the thing that always helped me get to the next opportunity. I have a very different experience in that I was at one company for 10 years, and I picked up a lot of skill sets being at that company for 10 years. Every other job after that company was like, hey, we're looking. Hey, we're looking. And
okay, so let's talk about that, though,
okay.
Because you weren't the only person that's worked at that company.
True.
You probably weren't the only person that had a good resume and a good experience, even a good reputation.
That's
from that
true.
Company. So share about that first company and what you think you did uniquely that started to get you those calls.
I think that I was open to learn.
But what was the company? What was the job? Like, kind
So
of give
I
me
was
the
at
elevation of that.
So I was at RDF USA, which then turned to Zodiac USA, which I now think is Banijay. But I was gone way before it was Banijay.
Banijay is a big company.
Yes, it is. It's huge. And by the way, RDF and Zodiac were a huge company. I was on a primetime network show. I was on Wife Swap for five 4 or 5 seasons,
Wow.
right? So
What year is this?
this
People could look
is
it up, so I ain't trying to.
this is like 2005.
Okay.
I'm a born and bred New Yorker, so I have to always declare that most of the people I know, like I was in New York for 17 years. I've only been in LA, well, all my life. I've only been in LA for almost 8.
Which is crazy to me.
Which is crazy.
Yeah, because I've been here a long time, and I feel like you know more people than I do.
Well, not really, but sure. So I was there and I did wife swap, and then I call it like the backside of the B side of the resume, where it's just like, do we really have to talk about it? Like, you learn the skill set, but you're not necessarily like, your chest is not sticking out when you're talking about the shows.
So is there a show that you want to highlight with that one that everyone may know about?
I promise you no one's heard of it, but it was like the bee's knees when I was doing it.
What show?
So I used to work on a show called All Worked Up, which turned into Lizard Lick Towing, and I also worked on
I do know Lizard Lick Towing.
Yeah.
Okay, I know that one.
And then I also worked on a show called Hardcore Pawn.
So was that like a Pawn Star
It was like
spin-off?
it was kind of like a rivalry. I want to let me just I want to say this point before I forget it.
Go ahead.
That sometimes when you're in this industry, I think that it's sold as all the glory, right? Like, you're waiting for Steven Spielberg to yell cut. It's like very pretty, and every moment is like the highlight moment that leads to awards. And I have to say that in my career, which seems prettier than it actually was, that truthfully, a lot of the jobs where you learn and earn your skill sets is not necessarily the thing that you will watch or your family will watch, but you still learn the skill set. And truthfully, if you are in this industry, if you don't have money like falling out of a tree in your backyard, normally you're just acquiring credits to build the network to help you get the next opportunity and to speak to your skill set. But it may not be a show that you are necessarily like proud of. Do you know what I mean? Like honestly. So I have a ton of television credits. There's probably only like a handful of shows where I've had enough agency to say yes to the thing or the project, and then be able to, you know what I mean? To be able to be like, this is where I learned how to blah, 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 you know?
Yes. Right. And it's funny because people actually don't understand in our business. I'm coming from development. You will do a ton of development. And if you're really good, if you're really, really good, you'll sell 5% of the things you develop.
If you are the Kobe of development producers.
Right. Now, there are companies that go 0% for the entire year. But what's interesting about that, which is what we're going to get into, is I think, and I thought this because I was a creative.
Yeah.
I thought that my entire income was going to come from the ideas in my brain.
Oh, God.
Right. No. People think this,
know
right?
it. I know.
People think that and this is interesting. It's so funny. I think this may be an epiphany for a lot of people that I've gotten to make my own ideas very, very seldomly in my whole career. I really want to understand from what you do.
Yeah.
What did you learn in your career? And also like the mix of revenue that you have to think about as a production company.
Yeah.
Let's get into that.
Yeah, so I think that what you're saying is such a very important point for people to understand. There are a lot of folks that will come to me and they're like, you know what? I need a show. Or like, you know what? I have an idea. And I'm like, an idea is not a show. Mm-hmm. A concept is barely a show. Right? As someone who takes other people's ideas and assigns a number to it and creates the infrastructure around what it takes to actually execute that show. I used to work at a company where, like many companies, but I was at one company at one time. I was basically over all of the development. I had 50 shows on my slate that were actively being worked on at one time. We probably sold 2 of those ideas, and that was a very successful, high revenue generating production company. And so
besides those 2 shows, where'd the revenue come from?
So there were other staple shows that they did, shiny floor shows. Think about the
big game shows,
competition shows. where their money would come in from there. And then they had branded integration. That was another revenue stream. And
But I think I want to pause you there because, but what you just said is important because, like I said, this is a service-based business.
Yeah.
Right. So were you getting production services opportunities too?
So we were getting production services opportunities. A lot of times what is happening is that when you are just a freelancer and you're in the gig economy, you feel like every production company is taking advantage of you. Some production companies are, right?
Yeah.
Like they're not giving you the rate that you deserve, all the things. The truth is that they're trying to keep the lights on, most of them.
Mm-hmm.
And so they are saying yes to things because they need to be able to have the revenue recognition and to hit goals so that they can keep the lights on.
Amen.
That trickles down to the bottom line for the people who are staffers who come and go, who are put dark for 2 and 3 weeks and come back and all the things.
So that was a clip of me and Bree Frank talking on this past week's episode, episode 107 Hollywood IQ. If you want to hear the full conversation of the full episode, make sure you subscribe to our Substack, or go ahead and listen to it on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcast from. But until next time, stay tapped into the Substack for any updates, and we'll see you next week. Hey, I'm Ri-Karlo Handy, founder of the Handy Foundation, and I've been in this business of television and film for over 25 years. I was lucky enough at the age of 14 and 15 to get great mentors and be a part of great programs that got me my foot in the door. We are bringing that same spirit of community and growth to our Substack channel. You might ask, why Substack? Well, because this space is not about the algorithms or sponsors. It's about us, about the creatives, the entrepreneurs, the tradespeople, the craftspeople, building and having real conversations with each other, talking about the skills that we need to have and grow to feed our families, how we can build our businesses and communities together to shape the future of the creative economy. Here, we will explore the various pathways into Hollywood careers. We'll break down the newest technology, not just for artists, but for entrepreneurs and industry professionals as well. Whether you're a filmmaker, musician, painter, writer, or simply someone who has an idea, this is your space. If you're ready to move past the noise, join our community, built for and by creatives. Subscribe now and build the next act of your career today.